Welcome to the channel, everybody. I'm Steve. This is my brother Troy. We are the GenXTransplantBros. This is the Free Will Burn-In podcast for this week. This week, we do have something to talk about. In fact, we have a few different things. We're going to discuss a little bit what's going on over in the world in general, but with Iran and things like that, and how that maybe is impacting me here in Colombia, as an expat. Me and Troy will talk about it, how it feels in the States. But we're not going to go deep, and we're certainly not going to get triggered. We also want to talk a little bit about, at the end of the episode, we came across a few interesting clips around the internet. They're kind of comical that touch on this sort of Gen X / boomer / millennial / Gen Z men, women sort of dating, not dating, that weird space that's suddenly emerged like crazy everywhere. We have a couple of those clips we're going to check out. And then also we're going to, for the meat of this, we're going to go through a list of Gen X born people who are no longer with us that had a big impact on us along the way. In other words, people that were born after 1965 and before 1980 who have since passed away, but we all know who they were and who they are. And, we'll give them a little bit of a shout out. Troy, how you doing today?
Doing great, Steve. Having a beautiful rainy day here.
Perfect. I was about to say, how's the weather? Because I am hot. And it is, get this. So when you were a kid, was it spring break or was it Easter vacation?
Spring break.
Okay. For me, it was Easter vacation because I went to, when I moved to Chicago, actually the third place I lived in Chicago, I started going to a Catholic elementary school. It was a private school. That's what everybody in the neighborhood did.
That makes
and
sense.
There, it was easy. I had no idea there was such thing as spring break until I was in the Army.
Wow.
And in high school, I don't even remember. I mean, hell, I was AWOL most of high school the way it is, but I don't remember. At any rate, but down here, but down here in Colombia, it just hit me why everybody's more or less at home this week. There's a lot more people at home. Here it's called Holy Week.
Right. Yeah.
It's Holy Week.
Sunday. Yep.
Right. And so they do it. I mean, they have each of the days. Today's a major one because the people next door are already partying. And there's, there's so much action going on in the neighborhood. It's usually pretty quiet during the day. So, once again, Colombia impresses me not only with their ability to just drop everything and have a good time when they want to, without arguing, oddly. It's one thing you never come across here. It's always laughing and dancing. And then also their commitment to their faith. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to church every Sunday and stuff like that, but man, when they celebrate something that has something to do with the Catholic religion here, everybody does it. I mean, especially in December when they do that Festival of Lights on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. It's like the 5th or 6th of December. The entire, wherever you are, is going to be candles up and down sidewalks to houses, up and down the street. I've talked about this before. In fact, I talked about it at Christmas this year here. And every year it impresses me, especially if you're in a city and you can look down and see it. It's like, it is truly amazing.
Beautiful.
Oh man, did they do it up. They're, top notch in that. And then it's just a sea of aguardiente. That's their local, I was going to say something like moonshine or something. It's not like that. It's their locally popular alcoholic drink. I don't even know what's in it. It's yellow or clear, but that's about all I know about it. Well, that's what comes out either way. All right. All that,
Anyway.
All that out of the way. Speaking of religion, are we fighting a war right now about politics? Are we fighting a war about terrorism, about nuclear stuff, or are we fighting a war with Christians and Jews versus Muslims?
We're fighting a war that's going to end all wars. That's what we're fighting.
We probably said that before.
I don't believe that it's against their religion at all. I think it's against, it might be because that guy said he was going to, he's dead now. He can't speak for himself. The leader of Iran did say he was going to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. That was probably 10 years ago I heard him say that. So, I mean, come on, dude.
Right.
You can keep your thoughts to yourself. Don't say it out loud. And then this is what you get.
Right. And I'm really not, from our point of view in the United States, there are probably some that do view it that way. It's sort of like a quasi-crusade of sorts. But I don't think most Americans see it that way. Now, how the Jewish people Jewish and Israeli are technically different. Israel is the country. Jewish is the faith. Not all Israelis are. There's Christian, and there's probably, I'm sure there's Muslim and everything else too.
There's Mormons there too.
And there's more. They're Christians. That's funny you say that because in Colombia, they don't consider Mormons Christians. Well, in fact, it's weird because
don't know. don't know.
But here, I'll take it one level more. And I'm only basing this on personal conversations with individuals. I'm not trying to say all Colombia is like this. It's just the ones that I've talked to. That they have a hard time wrapping their head around the fact that they're Christian. All the others are Christian religions. Or it might be anyway, they have a really, to me, strange way of seeing themselves as one thing and all the rest of it, Christianity, as one big basket of stuff. So it's weird, like when I say they are Christians too, they're like, no. And I said, well, the church name is Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And, you know, but it, you know, supersedes that and blah, blah, blah. I mean, especially in a country where 98% or whatever are the same faith, probably not a lot of discussions about any of this stuff in the first place. So they may never even considered this until I ask them something like this. It's kind of like race. When you mention race around here, people are like, what? They're all Colombian.
Yeah, because you're all the same, right?
Racially, no. If you want to talk about skin colors and stuff, I mean, there's obvious African descent, and there's a wide variety of what you would call your mestizo, I guess, Colombian. And again, this is not trying to. This is weird talking like this, but it's the mixture of Spanish and local, the indigenous. And so that's sort of where we come up with the Colombian. And, but some of them are much more towards I look like my ancestors were in the Amazon, or I look like my ancestors were from Madrid. And so you do see a lot of that too. I run into Colombians here that I swear if I didn't know, I'd think they were expat, maybe even from the United States. And then they start talking. I've got a friend like that where and in fact, my wife's mother, if I didn't know, I've often said it, she looks like she's from France, and she does to me. I don't know why, but she reminds me for whatever reason, of somebody from France. So she's got a lot of this in it. And then again, this is some weird territory we're in, but yeah, Holy Week here. And so because of that, I was getting back to why I was talking about it's hot, and I got the windows closed because everybody's making music outside and everything. And so I need to shut up so we can get out of here quicker. Troy, let's shift gears, keep it with Colombia a little bit also, and this Iran thing. This is what I really wanted to talk about. I've mentioned in the past here on the show that when these things happen, it impacts other countries much quicker. Like, for instance, the tariffs, I've mentioned that here having the prices go up dramatically over the course of a day, then go down, then go up, and then the visa thing and a cancellation of our visa process, and all these. So these impacts are really hard, and it just seems like a headline to us back in the States, as it would have to me when I lived there. But this latest thing is impacting everybody with the Strait of Hormuz closed, and 20% of the world's oil and like a bunch more percent of helium, which is needed for chips, for AI and everything else. And some of those helium fields actually being destroyed. It's not even, it blew up, I guess. I'm not trying to overstate that, but that's the way they say it on the news, as if they're not going to overstate it.
So everybody's voices in the area get really high now?
Exactly. We have a good story about that. Remember that? The Rodney King riot night. That's wow. Okay.
I can't
but
believe they blew it up.
So here's what I want to get to. When stuff like this starts to happen and prices go up here and fuel shortages, they're not here yet, and they might not get here. But I know they're all over Asia right now. There's people starting to get angry in countries that are fighting already and protesting and all that. None of that's happening here. I don't think we'll see that. But what it also does is it raises the temperature slightly on the overall sort of, you're the obvious person not from here in 99% of the places I go when I walk in someplace, because I'm A, taller, B, I look like a sheet of, from linen just walked in the room compared to most everybody else. And I say that jokingly. At any rate, I'm a little, like, barely over 6 foot tall, white guy, long hair, Fender t-shirt, don't look like your typical Colombiano. And so I've never had an issue, but I do live in an area that votes for the, quote, other team. This area is flipped now to supporting the Petro type stuff, the liberal type, the ultra socialist type of way of things. And so they have a lot of those people here. And the FARC and things like that are not too far away. These are terrorist organizations. They're just south of here, Valle de Cauca, and then over into Tolima. They're not there now, but they were up until just a few years ago. And so as the temperature rises, people like us could potentially catch some flack. And now we have in Ecuador twice in the past couple of months, U.S. Special Operations, specifically Special Forces, Green Berets, that have been advising and assisting the the Ecuadorian military in taking out their cartel/terrorist people. And they happen to be along the border of Colombia. And those same groups are also in Peru and here in Colombia. And Trump has already said he has no problem going into a place like Colombia. And he's currently in bad relationship with the president here. And Cepeda, the guy that's going to succeed him, is even more towards that side. And he's currently ahead in the polls of the election that's going to happen here in just a couple months. So that means if we continuously apply pressure around the world like this and, from their point of view, become this sort of maybe global bully, this country that they looked up to and thought, they're 80% of our trade, but they're also this and that, or what if they stop doing? I mean, it could get weird. And so I'm watching Matt Tardio on the Speak the Truth podcast. I like Matt a lot. I've mentioned him here before. He went up through the regular thing in the military, in the Army, the Army 11 Bravo infantryman, right into Ranger Regiment for I don't know how long. And then he went to the Green Berets, the Special Forces. He's retired and has a podcast, Speak the Truth, on YouTube. Troy, you're familiar with Matt, right?
Oh, I love his show.
Yeah.
Right. Very informative.
Right. And there's a few of these guys that I watch, but I really enjoy Matt. So last night, Matt was having his live stream thing. And so I asked him a question about this specific thing. I said, Matt, and I forget, we're going to play the clip here in a second. But my question was something along the lines of, now that we have boots on the ground, because everybody's talking about boots on the ground in Iran. I said, now that we have boots on the ground in Ecuador and we just had, Venezuela, and everything else going on, what are the chances, or something about what are the chances of possibly seeing boots on the ground here in Colombia to go after those same groups? Because that would really change things for us expats living here. And so we'll share the screen. I asked Matt. He's going to say at SRP Valkyrie. You'll notice that's right on the channel here. That's my handle, SRP Valkyrie. And so what we're going to do, let me get his glasses on so that I do not end up killing the session instead of shades. I almost did that one time. I went to hit share and I almost hit, okay, sound on. Let's bring up Matt. Here he comes, folks. There he is. There's Mr. Matt Tardio. This is, I shot this with my phone on my TV, as you can see. It's such a high-tech TV, I get to see YouTube on it. Isn't that nice?
Nice TV. 1972 nice Zenith.
Yeah, with Bluetooth. Okay, so here we go. He starts talking right off the bat. I cut it a little too close, but I did cut the clip so it's not online. It's about 2 minutes, and it ends with a little bit of referencing back to Iran, which we'll close out this conversation after that. But listen to what Matt Tardio said about the possibility of having boots on the ground here in Colombia as we chase cartels and terrorists around South America.
SRP Valkyrie says, Matt, great job as usual. Way off topic, but boots in Colombia, Peru with soft actions, and Ecuador pending, perhaps same groups being targeted in all three countries, U.S., Vet, XPAC, and Colonel. Okay. That's a solid question. I think the footprint is going to be small enough that whatever boots are on the ground are currently out there and you don't know about them. That's what I think. I actually think Colombia is a little bit different than Venezuela as well, because we have a semi-cooperative government over inside of Colombia. And if we're actually looking at cutting things off and really kind of like ending the circle, would be Colombia, because we have the money that's making its way and flowing out of Mexico. It's basically a circle. So Mexico to America, or I'm sorry, Venezuela to Mexico. I'm sorry, Venezuela to America. Things get sold, money to Mexico, and then money from Mexico to Colombia. And then Colombia produces stuff, ships it to Venezuela. Venezuela sends it to the United States. Essentially is where it looks, Mexico and back. But now Colombia, right, is seeing what just happened in Mexico. I think what happened in Mexico was kind of a little bit of a wake-up call, right? And I think Colombia is going to be kind of looking at it and going, we don't really want that, and they're going to get on board. We've been working side by side with Colombians for a while. Colombia has been going after these cartels for a while. Obviously, Trump was not happy with where they were at. And I got a feeling that there were some talking tos that ended up taking place. So that's my opinion, sir. I don't think that we are going to be having a large scale operation anytime soon. And if we do, it's going to be clandestine in nature. And we're going to continue to put things like, boot to butt on the backside, and probably a lot of FID going into it to take care of that. And I think our main concern as we get into it, honestly, is this.
But at any rate, so to recap a little bit about what he said there, when he says, first off, when I said special operations forces, that's what I meant by boots on the ground.
And I think our main concern as we get into it.
Yes, we have had U.S. Special Forces here in Colombia consistently since the 90s, part of Plan Colombia. And then, and then before that, there's, I don't know if it's Special Forces directly, but people here throughout the cartel years of, the Medellin cartel and things like that with Pablo Escobar and everything else. And so that, I believe, is a 5th Special Forces Group, part of Southern Command. I don't know, maybe not. And they have a top super secret place that they have a base here in Colombia that nobody's supposed to know where it's at, which can logically only be in one place. There's a place just outside of Bogota in Cundinamarca, which is the largest Air Force base in this country, and that's where all of our planes come in and out of. And if you're going to have a permanent detachment, or at least a team or some presence here that's here all the time, that's where they would probably be barracked or billeted or at. Other than that, they're constantly out there training. Like up here just north of me in Manizales is where the Lanceros are trained. That's their version of the Army Rangers, our Rangers. In fact, it's considered even by Special Operations in the United States to be if not the toughest school, one of them in the world. It's basic. It was built following the Grateful Dead, the Army Ranger School. Yeah, Jerry Garcia. No, the Army. It was modeled after the Ranger School. They came down here and helped them develop it. And there's lots of interaction. A lot of U.S. Special Operators come through that school, and vice versa. They're always sending people up there. And the difference here is, though, when they go to their version of Lancero School, it's actually in a real live jungle, and they can possibly, even if they wanted to, they could have real live enemies, because they're all over the place. The FARC, the ELN, general cartel type violence, any other kind of petty, whatever it might be, which is, I don't want to say common like you see it everywhere, but it could be commonly distributed. You could probably find some of it in most places. And certainly some areas where it's everywhere. So those would be the troops that would be helping out on things like that, because what those kind of units do, what the U.S. Special Forces do, is they come in and they advise. They're not like your SEALs with your direct action, although they could do that, or your Ranger direct action. They go in, they coach people up, you could say, in a very effective way. So anyway, I do think, though, at some point we're going to have that happen. We are going to have boots on the ground to some extent here in Colombia, because one of two ways: either the new president of Colombia ends up becoming problematic and we just do it without permission, or two, the new president is elected from the right side of the aisle, and then you have a little situation sort of what happened in El Salvador, where Bukele just all of a sudden over the period of a couple of years just cleansed. And that's exactly what the person on the right wants to do, and has even mentioned that model. So that would obviously, if they needed help from the U.S. would say, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
Let's take care of this whole thing right now. What do we do, folks? And that would, that also ties into my personal situation with the visa. Our visa is on hold because we were on that list of 75. We were a year and a half into it. I was expecting to be moving to the States this spring, possibly. Now it'll be at the earliest next spring, next summer, maybe, if we get off that list. Otherwise, I'm effectively locked out if I want to stay with my wife of the United States. So at any rate, Troy, what do you have to say?
The world has gone mad.
Elaborate.
It's going to get madder.
That's a prediction. It's a mad world.
Yes. That's historical film right there.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy. And what's crazy is it seems to me that nobody can stop it now. It's certainly out of my control. And I think for the most part, the populace of the world, 99% of us probably don't want any of this shit. So but here it goes. What do we know?
Right. We're just fine with pizza and Netflix, man. Leave us alone.
I'll just quote Dave Mustaine. Peace sells, but who's buying?
Wow. I almost opened today with a dun 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 from that beginning of that.
Maybe.
Maybe that'll be what it is. I don't think I've got the beginning yet. Well, speaking of him, now he is not dead, but I mentioned that we're going to go over a list of people here. So I'm going to bring up this PDF here over somewhere right here. I'm going to share the screen. We have a list here, a very happy list. One of the happiest lists. Probably the happiest.
Sound like Donald Trump.
I know, that's why I kept going. Might be the best list of all the lists. This is a list. Too bad it can't speak. You could listen to it. All right, so here we have it.
With my own hands.
That I made, right. So we have a couple of people in here that have an asterisk next to them. That's because they're danger close to being Gen X. They're like, 62 on, maybe. I think one of them might be 61, but they're synonymous with us. And also, when I say that these people had major impacts, it's still uncanny how the ones that had the largest impact on us were boomers. People like Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, even Grateful Dead. I mean, almost all those bands that we think of, for those of us in the Gen X community, they're sort of stuck in that era. Most of that music, I mean, look, we were in high school listening to it. So they were obviously out of high school. So here we go. From the top. And this is a guy that I saw one time and didn't know it. Remember the story of me seeing walking out of the Metallica show when they played with Raven in Chicago in '83. I had no idea. I remember that some other band, man, and it was Metallica. Cliff Burton. Troy, you talked a lot about him.
Yeah, I've met Cliff Burton and James Hetfield. I didn't really meet him, but we chatted with them. They were a warm-up band for Wasp in Phoenix, and they came out. This is crazy. They came out of the Palace West Theater. Him and James Hetfield. They were arguing over the sound. James Hetfield said it wasn't loud enough. Cliff Burton said it's too loud. I said, "Hey, if you guys aren't playing, I'm leaving because I'm here to see you." Of course we're playing. And they tried to get back in the Palace West, and they were locked out. So I said, "I'll sell you my ticket if you want to get back in."
So what happened?
Well, they got back in, and me and I believe it was Kevin, our bass player, was with me. Mm-hmm. We tried to get in after them, and they said, no. After seeing the concert, Cliff Burton was right. It was too loud.
It was too loud.
It was the loudest thing I've ever heard was Metallica.
Well, we've mentioned Kevin Butler before. He's got a Axe-Hewer guitars or something, Axe-Hewer bass, whatever it is. He makes custom music basses, and they are freaking top-notch basses. He's our old bass player from when we played in Enemy in the early 80s in Phoenix area. He was going to be on, and he's still going to, but he had something he had to tend to. And then he had to have a little time after that, blah, blah, blah. We'll let him talk about that if he wants to when he gets here. But we'll have him on, Troy. We got to remember to have him talk about these kind of stories because it might be the first time he remembers it in a long time. And who knows, maybe he had something else to the story. But that's great that we have somebody that was there with you on that. Which is an interesting whole nother topic I'd like to talk about in a side show, like on a Tuesday. What happens to our story if people just no longer believe it? How do we prove it? When I look at my past, it sometimes looks like I made it up. It's so freaking weird at times, being like just remote working for 29 years alone.
Well, a lot of things that you and I did, I don't even tell people sometimes because they just stare at you like, no way.
Right. No way. Exactly. I'm on a Facebook group, and if anybody out there is on this group, that's me, Wind and Raven, that said this. That's my handle on Facebook. I posted on the veterans disability. We're getting out of control here. I posted a question about any veterans that are not on disability that are currently retired and living overseas, because it's for people like that. And so I told him briefly about me, and the guy said, "You sound like some unicorn who's been hopping around." Like he did not believe a word I said.
Sorry,
he thought I was. He actually said at the end, "You've probably been on the road 18 months." Okay, whatever. All right. So anyway, but that made me think: how do you prove it? How do you prove it if somebody just says it didn't happen? Okay, Kurt Cobain. We all know this. We just had an episode about him. Look at the cause of death here. Gemini did this, by the way. Gemini put together this list after I started out naming off a lot of names, and then it kept going, and then I said put it in this order. Suicide.
I don't believe anybody believes that.
Yeah, it's a word that the algorithm's going to freak out. I'm sure it's been said a lot. self-unaliving. How silly is that? But yeah, still a mystery.
No, it's not.
And there's a Grateful Dead connection. There's two.
Yeah.
There's two Grateful Dead connections in here that most people don't think of. Is that one and the very last one on the list that we'll talk about later. Okay, Shannon Hoon, and Bradley Noel, Jeff Buckley. I've not heard of them. I've heard of the bands and solo artists. I assume that's not the name of the band. I assume that's what he really was.
That's a great name for a band.
Yeah, solo artist, or just go by yourself and call yourself Big Band.
Yeah. Solo artist, Big Band.
Right. Hair
I know
band.
Shannon Hoon, the Blind Melon was a great band. I think they only made 2 albums, but I loved them.
Did you? When was that?
That was when we were in college in Flagstaff. Late 80s.
Yeah, because that was the year the presidential election, 92. That was the
I think
that was the closest I ever came to voting.
I think Shannon Hoon was part of the hippie culture.
What's this? Yeah, drug overdose, cocaine. Yeah,
well, maybe he wasn't part of the hippie culture now.
That's funny.
I thought it was heroin.
That 92, remember we were in line to vote in 92 for president?
Yeah, Bill Clinton.
And then we left because the line was too long?
I don't remember.
I remember either the people around us we left. But I was going to say, that's the closest I ever came to voting. That's the only time I was ever even in line.
I remember
never voted
wanting to vote for him, and then that whole, I smoked it, but I didn't inhale, couldn't get out of my mind. I thought, well, you're a liar, dude.
I'd almost, at this point, if they haven't smoked it, I don't know if I trust them.
Yeah.
What did you do in college and high school?
Well, that whole thing where he got caught as being a liar made George Bush Jr. actually have to say, yeah, I snorted the cocaine, because he couldn't.
Well, at least and he also had a drinking problem at one point. Right.
I shot up heroin, but I didn't use any needles.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even. Okay, let's go. All right. Yeah. So, Layne Staley, Alice in Chains. You must know this one.
Layne Staley. Yes, I saw them in concert. Sorry. I love Layne Staley. I still listen to Alice in Chains. I love that band.
What do you think of Elliott Smith, who self-inflicted stab wounds? Yikes.
I don't know who he is.
He's a solo Heatmeister band, I guess. Okay, now there's a guy that I have no explanation as to how I only learned of this person's existence in the last couple of years. It probably has to do with the fact that I distanced myself from metal the way that I did, and I went so far into the Grateful Dead community, my head didn't come up from that until really just the last few years. And so Dimebag Darrell, I went back and watched videos of him. I don't know how I missed this guy being alive, but apparently he was a raging star when he was big. I don't know. Do you remember Dimebag Darrell?
I do, because I believe when I went to see Alice in Chains, Pantera was the headline.
Mm.
And
he's our age, 66.
Yeah, and I believe one of his fans shot him while he was on stage for stealing his song.
Yikes.
Oops-a-daisy.
Imagine, okay, back to the Grateful Dead. They would have every other song they could have had that happen. Because they played so many covers.
Jerry, how dare you?
Jerry, you're singing Elizabeth Cotton's song from 1913. I'm a great-great-great-great-grandson. Yeah. So, bang. Okay, James Cotton, Grateful Dead peer, pneumonia. What? Hold on a minute. I don't know how this is an example of an AI artifact or whatever. This guy's way out of line as far as 1935, not even close. He's not even a boomer. Okay, let's skip him. Adam MCA Yauch from the Beastie Boys. Do you remember him?
Yeah, I do. I liked the Beastie Boys. They were funny, crazy, you know?
Yeah, I remember them just being, I never had an opinion of them either way, but I remember they looked fun, and they always looked like they were having fun.
Yeah, that's why I liked them. I mean, I never bought any of their CDs or anything, but I enjoyed watching their
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah, I mean, if I was into that, I would have been all about them. And again, today, it's crazy. I mean, hell, I'll listen to the Bee Gees these days and be like, wow, what was I doing in 1977?
Right. Why'd I hate
Why
them?
why was I listening to Aerosmith? I could have been doing this. Could have had a fancy floor and a disco ball and stood like this all day.
Dancing.
Exactly. All right, Chaya Chang, Deftones, cardiac arrest following a car accident, 1970 and 2013. Yikes!
I did not know that. I liked it. Well, the Deftones. I like them. Yeah.
I remember these. That's another band like a lot of these, like Sublime.
I wonder. Is it? I saw it. Is his name?
Their names.
Is his name pronounced Cha-ching? Cha-ching, like money?
Cha-ching.
Could that be? I don't know his name. I don't know.
If this guy turns out to be Asian, we're gonna get canceled by YouTube. Because
he's all about money. Cha-ching.
Yeah, well, if he's wealthy, it backs it up. All right, so Layne Staley of Static X. Have you heard of Static X?
No.
Drawing a blank on that one. Drug and alcohol toxicity. Yeah, you OD'd.
Shocker.
Scott Weiland. Here you go.
Love the Stone Temple
Pilots. Yes, indeed. Accidental drug overdose. Oh, look at this whole little next group here. Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to read this on an angle. Yes, we have Soundgarden, Audioslave, Linkin Park, Stone Temple Pilots, all in that little bunch right there. All 15, 17, and 17. But drugs, suicide. Oops, excuse me. We're not supposed to say that word. Sorry, algorithm. Offed himself.
Yeah, I think Chester Benning did that first, and Chris Cornell they were really good friends, and I think Chris exited shortly after Chester did.
Wow.
Which is sad. To me, one of my favorite singers ever was Chris Cornell. Ever, man. That guy could sing.
I'm gonna put their names in the search bar of YouTube, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that have talked about that. I'd like to hear more about that. I really wish I got so far into the bands I liked that I could not hear anything else but them. And I did that. Yeah. When I did that, it was so thorough, especially the Grateful Dead era. That 30-year run, nobody got in. Nobody got in at all.
You did, man. I never thought about that. Like, you were a huge Kiss, huge Iron Maiden, then I was going to say Def Leppard. Oops. The Grateful Death.
Right. And then Grateful Dead. And then there was little side things, like when I got into country music in 1991 92, when we were working construction in Northern Arizona, I discovered George Strait. I was like, oh, and I ended up getting like all of his albums. That's all I listened to for like a whole, like 9 months, driving to and from Flagstaff, down to Sedona every day. It was
still love George Strait.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly. I would love to have it. I did see him once in Atlanta at the Mercedes place when it first was opened. Yeah, it was a hell of a show. It's the year he came out with that live album, about the same time.
Wow, that'd have been so cool.
Oh yeah, it's just so top notch. It's through the roof good. I mean, the guy he is country music, and I'm sure there's others.
He is.
Yeah, he's like the Iron Maiden.
He's a rodeo guy. He's a cowboy. He's all of it, man.
Right. Yeah, he really does have that thing on his chin is really from getting bucked off a horse when he was a kid rodeoing. So I mean, he's through and through cowboy.
Yep.
Which really adds a lot. And see, that was a sidebar here. It was right at what poisoned me with country music is right about that era. They all of a sudden, boom, here came Toby Keith with Should Have Been a Cowboy, which is like his second or third album. I remember when his first one came out. I remember when Diamond Rio first came out, their very first album. I won it on the radio in Flagstaff by calling in, being caller number 22 or whatever. I got it. It was still like in demo, and they were coming, and I saw them. That's the year I saw Dwight Yoakam in Flagstaff in 91, 92. And then also I saw Merle and Willie play out the Native American at the Navajo place.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. Talk about acts. I saw Willie several times. I went to see him in Atlanta several times. He warmed up when Phil and Friends were touring, Phil Lesh and Friends from the Grateful Dead. Willie was in front of that, and so I saw him a few times there. I saw Willie a lot of times. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, solid stuff. As the thing, though, is that I don't branch off from there. Like, unless they're in their family. Like suddenly I would get into Chris Christopherson just because, the Bobby McGee connection with Grateful Dead, and then Janis recording the song. And then also Chris Christopherson with his relationship with the whole country crowd, and Johnny and Merle and all them. So it's just an interesting way that works, but I stayed in it. And during that time, things like the Beastie Boys, Deftones, Stone Temple Pilots, Linkin Park, all these bands were just happening, and I heard the names, but I had no idea what was going on there. And so that was the downside of it. That's what you don't have when you lose, This is also part of the thing, like what Spotify has done. Since we get to choose our music all the time, it knows what we want to hear and just feeds us that. Whereas when I was a kid listening to The Loop in Chicago, the radio station, or WLS, they would just play something. You had to listen to it.
Yeah.
We would have never heard songs like Personality, all those things if it hadn't been for that. And so a certain amount of, when MTV killed the radio star, it sort of started that process, I guess, for people like me, unless you actively had a social community and were always going places and being exposed to new things like that, you just found what you liked and you stayed there. Me, anyway.
Yeah. MTV changed everything, which
absolutely
was good in some sense and bad.
Right.
Did
you see that there's a big, I forget who they are, there's these kinds of band names. A couple of them have been talking lately about how the marketing in the radio or in the recording industry pushed out rock in the late 90s because it wasn't as easy to manage, and that was the rise of the first boy bands and all that. And there's a couple of these guys from that era that were active bands at the time, and they all speak about it in the same exact way. It doesn't sound like a bunch of whiny, whatever. It does look as if it was done as a marketing thing, that rock wasn't as fashionable, and that's why still today, rock takes a backseat, and they replace it with rap. And then country music hit.
Girly pop music like Taylor Swift seems to be the latest trend. But you're right. I've seen a lot of those musicians from the 80s and 90s talk about how they were kind of pushed aside.
Right. And then they invented these things, these combination things like hip hop. It's like these country western guys that are also sort of rapping or I mean, it's like, what is this stuff? I mean, George Strait's probably sitting over there with his Winchester.
I think George Strait was in a movie. I think it was called Pure Country.
Pure Country.
Maybe?
Yeah.
That was a great and that was kind of about them.
That was about that.
Country music.
Right.
It was a great movie.
And it did it, because that song, when you hear twin fiddles and a steel guitar, that was that song, Pure, what was the name of the actual title track? But anyway, that's how it starts. And even, he has like the little mullet thing going on stage. Looks all hip.
That was funny to see that.
Yeah, but it actually did that. Because of the success of that movie and that song, it was like, I mean, there's going to be country western fans out there that are much more knowledgeable on this. And so please, in the comments below, square me away on this. I'd love to know. I'm really interested. But to me, it seemed, because I came into it during that period, just prior to that movie coming out, I was all excited. I heard he was going to do a movie. And so the movie comes out, and then you saw the rise of songs that sounded more like that song. And some of the songs in the movie that were actually kind of a joke because they were trying to expose this sort of glamour stuff. They were great songs, but they weren't really George Strait per se. But then everything started to sound like that. It's kind of like what happened with You Got Another Thing Coming with Judas Priest.
Oh, yuck.
You know what I mean?
About that movie. I was living in Prescott, Arizona, and had real cowboy friends that rounded up cattle with their horses that talked about that movie, and they're saying he's taking a jab at Garth Brooks. Because Garth was the guy that at that point when that movie came out, Garth was swinging across the stage on a rope and doing all this explosion.
Friends in low places.
He was a big Kiss fan, so he took the Kiss show to country music, and a lot of people did not like it, and other people, Garth Brooks kind of got country music going again, really.
Oh, well, he certainly kicked it off into something that you could market.
Something different.
Right. If you put enough lights and glitz and energy in it, and I'm not trying to talk down. I mean, Garth Brooks was amazing. That song, Friends in Low Places, no matter what you think of it, it is monumental in its impact on just music alone. I wasn't there at the time, but I've been through Music Row in Nashville many times, and pretty much every time I was there after about 2005, you can't walk more than 20 feet without hearing Wagon Wheel playing. Somebody's playing Wagon Wheel somewhere. You know, the old song from I can't believe I forgot their name. I was at one of their very first shows in Asheville, North Carolina, when they just walked into the bar and set up and they played that song. But anyway, I bet you during this era, you couldn't have walked through Music Row without hearing, I've got friends in the... Remember we used to sing that?
Couldn't. Yeah, we did.
What did we do? We would only do the high parts and low parts. Yeah, the vowels. Yeah, but last time we did that, Troy, we were drunk. and it was 1994 or whatever, 93.
Well, there's Billy's Western Bar was the big cowboy bar there in Prescott we hung out at.
Right. So what we're talking about here, folks, is in 1990, I was out of the Army about a year and a half at this point. I was just living in New Jersey, basically sharing a house with two former soldiers that I ETS'd with. And Troy showed up one day on a Friday and said, Dad wants you to come to Arizona and work with the company. And I left. We left like the next day or 2 days later. And so now I'm suddenly living. And so we eventually moved to Camp Verde, Arizona, where we had a trailer, which is the story of the second time I was extradited. I don't know if I've told those here. You were driving that night, and then you tried to bail me out. Oh, guys, we got to tell this whole story someday. Troy, an intoxicated Troy with the Arizona
revised statute,
standing in the front of the police, where when you walk into a police station, there's a woman there talking, and I'm in the jail cell, and I can see all this, and he's arguing, what right do you have to keep my brother here? Of course,
I had the law book, and I was showing him why he was wrong.
Right, because you were taking some course in law
at the same time.
Never mind, you were actually taking a law course from Northern Arizona University, where we were going at school at the time.
Right.
That's a little later.
It all, man.
At any rate, folks, we lived in Flagstaff for a couple of years, and as you can tell, we had quite the time in those 2 years. Lots of road trips. That's the one that Jerry Garcia threw me out of the show. Bill Graham and Edie Brickell sat on the hood of your car.
Yeah, that was fun.
And the balloons and the Rodney King. We'll get back to that. All right, here we go. Down the list we go. How far did we get? Okay, Cranberries, Dolores O'Riordan.
I love
Vinnie
her.
Paul. Wow, another Pantera. So
I don't know
Pantera's
that
lost
night.
2. Oh, no. He died in heart failure in 2018. He was a year before us. There's not an asterisk for him, but he's close enough. Jeff Austin, Younger Mountain String Band. Wow.
Don't remember them.
No. Well, you wouldn't. They're not new, but they're newer. They came out maybe in the 90s. They were certainly around by the 2000s. I saw them play in Athens, like Leftover Salmon and them would be regulars to come to Athens for these summer festivals, and they'd literally play in the streets. So I saw them in that venue, and I also saw Leftover Salmon that way. I've seen Leftover Salmon a few times, so. Okay, so Chris Robertson, Brotherhood. Oh, Grateful Dead jam thing. It threw this in here because it knows I like Grateful Dead. I've never heard of this guy, but...
Chris Robinson, that was a singer for the Black Crowes, I think.
No, Neil Casual. Oh, Chris Robertson, Brotherhood. Yeah, that would be, well, that would also be a Grateful Dead connection, too, because he would, when they did Hard to Handle?
Yeah.
Yeah, their version of Hard to Handle is basically exactly like the Grateful Dead's version from Live Dead in 71.
I think, weren't they from Atlanta, the Black Crowes?
They're from, they were Georgia. I forget. I remember that being a thing we talked about a lot when I was living in Athens. But anyway, so he left voluntarily. Joey Jordison from Slipknot.
Oh, I think he was the drummer, maybe.
I don't know, but he had natural causes. And then most recently, so there I was sitting in Pareda, Colombia a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden my wife comes running in the room and says, Tyler Hawkins, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, who? I had no idea what she's talking about. That was the day that Foo Fighters were going to be playing in Bogota. And, of course, he had he overdosed or something along those lines. He had, he didn't have, I looked at the toxicology report, I was reading about this the other day. It was mostly
Sleeping
various,
pill.
yeah, it was various kinds of quasi-pharmaceutical type stuff.
Yeah.
And there was THC, but there wasn't like cocaine, things like that. There may have been some of the opioids in there, but again, sometimes that stuff could be medicinal too, depending on what it is. What kind of delivery. Opioids are in lots of different things. But that was unfortunate. And it was a major thing. They had that night, instead of the concert in Bogota, they filled the stadium and they had this big candlelight vigil, and everybody, quite a scene. Do you remember when this took place?
I do. And that was very sad because I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan. And the dude was a really down-to-earth, cool guy, too, was what was
Right.
even worse about the whole thing. Just a really good guy.
Again, feel like a complete moron for not knowing who he was, but that was because, in the late 90s, look, I was starting UGA Sports. That was an era when I really didn't do music much at all. During those first 10 years, I was a .com guy 24 hours a day from 96 all the way, till 2006, 2007 when I started to get burned out. But so Foo Fighters would have been, to me, if I even was aware of it at the time, it would have been an offshoot of Nirvana, which at the time I still had a fundamentally negative feeling about, because the way that we looked at it coming out of the 80s, we're like, what happened to all the powerful, strong man bands, heavy metal?
Right.
Yeah. Now we have a bunch of slouching in the corner with a flannel crying about the past. And there's no disrespect to Kurt, because I've since completely changed my point of view on that. I love that era, that music. And I really wish, of all of these 27ers or people that died early, Kurt Cobain, look at this guy. This guy, and we segued out of Tyler. We'll be back to Taylor in a second, but back to just grunge in general. I was thinking the other day that if you look at the myriad of people or of styles, right now you have this thing called the jam band community, which is basically stuff inspired by the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no other way around it. All of them are going to say something giving homage back to the beginning, if not the Dead, Jerry, or something in there. Similar to the way that a lot of the heavy metal community will do one of two bands in the same way, Iron Maiden or Metallica. And they both can kind of equally share that, although Maiden, I think, in total body of work, I think is ahead in that, and maybe even immediate impact. And they maybe even influenced Metallica. I don't know. I don't know how far back Metallica goes. I know Maiden goes back to their 70s. And Steve Harris is a icon regardless. But those two guys, Garcia did it for 25 years with the Grateful Dead until he died, or 30 years. What about 95, 30 years? So he had 30 years to put that together. And he had two bands, right? He had lots of bands, but he had Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia band, but then numerous other side acts. So he created a movement basically, and his band, as did Maiden / Metallica. And they're still touring. But here comes Kurt Cobain. And in what, 2-3 years tops and a couple albums, I don't even know how many, he inspires an entire genre of music. I don't know if anybody, and again, grunge fans, correct me on this, I'd love to know, but when I think of grunge, I think that starts at Kurt Cobain.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
He is grunge like Jerry is hippie, I guess.
Right. And one that wasn't on here, I don't know how he got off here because he's one of my favorite, is Cortron. I've never really known about Bathory was the name of his band. He died in the around 2000. So he was Gen X, and he's singularly responsible for what's called Viking metal. He's the one that started that. And we've actually, some of these shows, I've had him in the opening, his stuff. I listen. What's funny about it is the band is so much different on a lot of their albums, but they have Nord 1 and Nord 2 or something like that. It's these two albums where this comes out, the Viking metal. And there's like 5 or 6 of these songs that are just like, to me, some of my best heavy metal songs of all time. These things are freaking rock solid songs. And then I listen to the next album, I'm like, ugh. Then it's like death, screaming and yelling. But these other ones have a completely different sound. And maybe in the link below I'll put a link to some of these. But anyway, he should have been on this list because he was a Gen Xer, is the Gen Xer, and he is the one credited for starting Viking metal, which is still a fairly big thing, obviously in Europe, more so probably in the United States, but they're still running around out there.
Viking metal.
there's a bunch of them, like Thor's this, Odin this, and all this, and all their songs are the Valkyries are coming, and or whatever, going up the world tree, and Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall, Loki, all that fun stuff. At any rate, Troy, anything to say about our dearly departed Gen X influencers in the good ways? I mean, they influenced our music, and all those names are remembered by somebody, but a lot of them are remembered by all of us.
I don't think Taylor Hawkins is replaceable. I'll say that. I don't think the Foo Fighters. Well, they tried, they had a drummer after him. The guy didn't work out. I think he was that much a part of that band, though. I don't think they can replace him.
Yeah, I don't know what their current status is. Troy, who is this?
Why, that looks like Gene Simmons as a cowboy.
No, it's not. It's somebody it's somebody talking about Taylor Hawkins. And the reason so yesterday when I was putting this together, I found out more. I went on a Taylor Hawkins binge and watched a bunch of videos. I even went to El Tiempo, that's the local newspaper here. I have a subscription to it, went to their archives and read the stories from the time that the people here wrote. That's where I got the toxicology reports. But I discovered, oh my God, he has a Grateful Dead connection. That blew my mind. That's like the furthest thing. I mean, doesn't Kurt Cobain hate the Grateful Dead? So he said it or something like that. So anyway, it turns out that now when Taylor's going to actually talk about it here, this guy's leading into it. And then I want to just talk a little bit about it because there's something about it that doesn't really match, but it doesn't. I'm not saying anybody's lying, but let's just listen to what he says here about the time. This guy was just speaking about how Taylor changed after having seen them, which is what Taylor's going to talk about. And so I don't know if I have any of him playing, but here we go.
Conversation was identical.
And so I saw them once. At first I was like, what's going on? And everyone was like, passing food around to each other. And like, the song's kind of starting, but have they even started the fucking song yet? They're like jamming. Is everyone on stage yet? I mean, like, everyone's throwing energy and, passing each other doobies and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. They don't know how they're gonna start this song. They just do this like improvisational jazz thing. And that got me good. Now, whether I'm gonna say I'm a huge Deadhead, I'm not gonna say I'm a huge Deadhead, but I love the chances they were taking the whole time. 3 days after that show, I had to go to Europe to do a 2-week tour with the Foo Fighters. And I just started like taking a lot more chances. And I had some of the best shows I've had in a long time, if not ever. Kept saying to Dave, our singer and our fearless leader, Dave Grohl, I just kept going, fucking Dead show, man. I'm telling you, dude. It took me to new heights. I saw something.
You'll never get him to a Dead show.
No, I'll never get Dave Grohl to a Dead show. It's never gonna happen. I can't imagine. But it really did kind of, I got it.
And so I Googled it because part of it that doesn't seem to fit is I did in my limited research, again, correct me please in the notes or in the comments. Foo Fighters started in 1994. They came out their first album in 1995. They went to Europe in 1997. Jerry Garcia died in 1995. He was getting ready to go to Europe a few days later. That means that would have been in 97. In 97, you would have had perhaps maybe the earliest versions of like either Further they had going, a little side gig of the remaining members. Then Phil Lesh and friends they were getting started about the same time, which would have brought the same energy. And it would have had the same noodling on stage and really, not really, they literally just wait for the moment to arrive. They really don't know what they're doing half the time. They're just going in that direction. That's the magic of the Dead. And that would have still been there. If that's the case, he would have seen, not Jerry, he would have seen whoever the stand-in, which would have probably been like a Warren Haynes or somebody like that at that time. Or maybe he saw them younger prior. I don't know, because he is from Laguna Beach, which was a spot the Grateful Dead played regularly throughout their career, at least through the 80s and, well, not in the 90s, a lot in the 80s and maybe in the 90s, that area anyway. And so that's a big Deadhead area, California in general. So I'm sure he was exposed to that. But I love the way he talked about the way it changed his playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an original member of the Foo Fighters, so I don't know when he started playing for them, but
97, I think.
Okay, because he was with Alanis Morissette. That's how they kind of got their gig.
Yeah. Yep, I saw that. It said he was in, and he was in
And
something
I think
similar.
Alanis Morissette, I don't know, you might know. I think she was kind of into the hippie culture. She was Canadian, but
she would have definitely adjacent anyway. I don't know if she had any direct connection, like say Edie Brickell did, but as we both know,
yeah.
But at any rate, so yeah, it's funny how throughout that list. Now again, you could probably pick many people. You could probably pick Jimmy Page, and each one of these people would probably comment and say, yeah, that in one way or another, Led Zeppelin or something had some kind of impact on me. It's not like only Jerry Garcia has this, or Grateful Dead, but it just seems louder, and here, and so the connectivity between them and this is as diverse as their music.
Yeah.
So anyway, you done?
I am finished. I've said all I have to say today.
I said it like that because I have another clip to share, but I look at the clock and it's 57 minutes, and I don't know if we'll have anybody
57 here. 57 minutes. Well, show it.
Let's go ahead and show it. So here, this is just us having fun now, Troy.
All right.
I want us to watch this video. I'm going to stop it along the way, and I want you to comment as we go, and then I'm going to tell you what I think of it, okay? So you're going to be put on the spot. All right, now it's going to start playing immediately. I have to pause and all this other stuff, so give me a second here to get this going. Okay, here we go. You're going to love this. It's right up your alley, Troy. Ready?
Yeah.
Can you see our lovely friend?
She is a pretty lady.
Okay, off we go. This is a
is
57
that Taylor
second,
Hawkins?
And she's going to have some things to say about men, dating, things like that I thought was an interesting video.
Anyone's wondering why we don't date? This is why. We're literally in the middle of the road changing a tire because her tire went flat immediately after the date. Me, I'm just here for moral support and because I lived around the corner. But oh, and you're wondering where the date is, you may ask? He's at home. And you know what he had the audacity to say? Is it bad to ask if you want to come over when you're done changing your tire?
What do you think so far?
Well, girl power. She knows how to change a tire. Let her do it.
Okay, now watch this next scene.
These are the men. These are the men that are out there, okay?
No, I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere. These fucking guys keep driving by me as if I don't need fucking help. All the lug nuts loose and I can't figure out where to put the jack.
We'll figure it out.
Every girl boss becomes a damsel in distress when she meets a situation she can't girl boss her way through. Yeah, it's 2025, ma'am. Everyone's equal now. You're strong and independent, right? You can do everything a man can. So enjoy the equality or go ahead and call the bear yourself. My bad.
Okay, let me pause.
If anyone's wondering why we don't date.
What do you think of the entire thing?
I think it's right on, man. Men are sick of their shit and they need to be girl bosses 100% or not at all. Come on.
Okay. I agree with, and I agree and I disagree. The part I agree with is that men can think whatever they want. I give a rat's ass what any man thinks. And I do see definitely the position of the where you're coming from on that. And I also believe that it's valid. It doesn't mean that I personally have that going on in my life, but I certainly see the reality of it in the world because it's all over the place. There's zillions of videos like this, so it's out there regardless.
Yeah.
This woman in the blonde hair, kind of cocky. But what gets me is this part, where here I am, where's it at? When this part, if I'm in that car and I'm driving by here, I'm pulling the F over because what I am is a man. Okay, I might be a pissed off man too, but what do we do, men? And whoever this child here, this babbling fool laughing at them, seriously, come on. What, is he pissed because he can't get a date, so he's going to make fun of a woman on the side of the highway? You think that's ha-ha funny? Great, you can do that. Man up, man. Come on. If you're sitting on his couch at home with a hot pocket stuck under his fingernails, 250 pounds, probably whining about not getting a date, and this is what you're going to laugh at women because of it? Man up.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I guess so.
I'm not saying this to the guys that feel this way, but this punk that made this video with that crappy little sarcastic, whiny little voice, this little boy who would drive by a woman on the side, a guy that would drive by a woman who obviously needs help, and you're going to complain about anything? And you're going to pretend that you belong to some like old school way where the man is, doing this would be nice, right? If everybody had that same relationship we had in like Leave It to Beaver. I'm not saying that sarcastically. That seemed to have worked fine. But what did that man do? Ward would have pulled over and fixed the damn help with the tire.
Yeah, that's Ward. Ward would have.
Right. Who wouldn't? The same kind of punk that maybe is sitting home and making videos like this.
Eddie Haskell would not have.
This is Eddie Haskell.
Yeah.
I saw this and I was like, at first, because I've had a lot of these in my. There's this black man, this African American, whatever, and he has he does the thing with the shorts where there's like a little person down here, and it's usually a woman like this complaining about men, and then he comments. He's really, really good. I like him, but because I watch him, my algorithm gets stuff like this. And when I saw this one, I saw her, and I was like, oh, here we go. This woman's going to just absolutely be the stereotype and act like a fool. And she did, the way she was talking. But that other girl was crying.
Yeah, I've seen that
or
video
at least
before.
Panicked and literally on the side of a highway. And it's dark outside. Guys, come on, guys, men. I'm not trying to sit here and give you some kind of clinic on masculinity or being a man, but this video was not made by a man.
No, well,
and if that's a woman talking at the end, then fine. But still, it's just, to me, it was so low rent. And to me, the anger behind this video, the behavior that created it, has an equal piece of the action in that entire pie.
Yep.
So Troy, I know you agree with it because the fire of the beginning, that blonde chick, yeah, the cockiness.
She was laughing at it. What was her problem?
She was laughing at it too. But what got me, as soon as I saw that girl on the highway, I was like, oh my God, she's going to get hit. She didn't know what she's doing. I was like, immediately went into protector mode, and then I was like, this is so unfortunate. And then I heard that squirmy little voice at the end.
I don't know.
I was like, I just want to pick you up by your neck, and here's the cliffs. Bye.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think women
these
just
days
seem to be terrified of men, and I think if a guy pulled up to help, I think they'd be terrified too.
Well, there's that. There's the my wife. She's an author. She writes a lot about feminism. Not that she writes about how it's screwed up civilization. Her new book is coming out, and she's currently in there finishing it right now. It comes out in April. It's her second book on this kind of topic, and so she's hugely unpopular with these kind of people. And so she came in and told me about that bear in the woods thing one day. I was like, you got it. But that's the kind of thing that created the anger that whoever made this video has, and so that I think is earned. I don't know the specifics on this, but the gist I get of it is that young men over the last 10 years or so have felt like they had to live up to this sort of Instagram perfection, of money, looks, and everything else. And so unless you look like that, you basically have no chance. And then I don't know how the rest of it happened, that women somehow backed this up with their behavior. And now the women find themselves single and older. And the guys are like, not so much anymore. I don't care. And so at least my algorithm, for all I know, if I watched other topics, I might have a completely different understanding because that's the echo chamber of these
think the
platforms.
algorithm kind of did it to men. It did it to me because of X and Instagram. I had those for about as long as I could tolerate it. But if you click on one of the women like her, with the whole shaking their head like Oprah Winfrey and
Yeah.
doing this. I don't need no man. You
Oh,
click on that gets an algorithm to where you see, I've literally seen
Oh, believe me.
thousands of them to where I'm like, it affected me to where but I'm also, I'm old. I don't care. But I don't
Yeah.
know if that affected me to the point where I'm like, you know, F you, fix your own damn tire.
My wife will have a day where she has like 3 videos she sends me because they're funny. Like usually it's dogs. And so it's some funny dog video. And so I'll click on it. Obviously, it comes on my WhatsApp. I click on it. It opens up Instagram or whatever it's on. And then I get those in my feed for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So it's like Iran news, expat news, you know, Iron Maiden getting puppies.
I'm not ever going to look
And
up
then it's the
puppies.
temptation. That actually looks like a funny one. That looks like a funny one. If I click on it, though, the whole page is going to be puppies the next time we come back.
Right. Well, I wish they would stop doing that. Leave me alone.
I know.
Just because I looked at it once doesn't mean I want to be flooded with it.
Ooh, you know what? I sort of had my own limiting algorithm going in my. We were talking about how I get locked in on particular kinds of music.
Yeah.
And I got to break my own algorithm. So, yeah,
So
I mean, I'm gonna have to get
so
a new.
don't
a
look
new
up
LLM.
don't look up the Bee Gees then.
No, no. There's certain things you don't want to look up, otherwise they're going to see.
Leo Sayer.
Yeah. Next will be Leo Sayer and Jerry Garcia. It'll always somehow go back to the Grateful Dead.
Oh yeah,
Together.
do an AI for that. Jerry Garcia.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I saw one of the worst AI slop video. I didn't even click on it.
A lot of it out there.
Oh no! It was the thumbnail. Okay, it had a picture of Jerry Garcia as the older Jerry Garcia, like gray-haired Jerry with the gray beard. And it said, and now Pigpen was the organ pled / mouth harmonica. And he died in like 74, but he effectively left the band like 73-ish and liver failure. He was one of the 27 crowd. He was the boyfriend of Janis Joplin. And so there's this thumbnail and it shows Jerry Garcia crying, holding up a note and a cassette. And it's a cassette, an actual cassette, and some kind of note. And then it says something like, after all these years, the truth about Pigpen comes out, and it shows Garcia crying like he just discovered this news. He's been dead since 1995. Never mind. But it was like, that is so low rent.
Yeah.
You know,
all that crap out there.
But it looked real. It looked, I mean, it was obviously AI, but it looked, I mean, it was like, because they took a popular picture of him and used it. But it's just so sickening to see that kind of thing.
It is.
Well, not sickening. That's a little harsh. It's silly, unnecessary.
Silly Willy.
And that got me to wondering, Troy, how long before people start asking, are Steve and Troy real or are they AI? As AI gets better, how are we going to be able to prove we're real?
Well, that's a huge problem of people not knowing the truth anymore. What is true and what is not, right?
Yeah.
We got somebody going to the moon. Did we ever really go there in the first place? I don't know.
3 of the top 5 songs on Spotify right now are written by an AI band and performed by an AI band.
Yeah, we could do that. That's so sad, you know?
I know. Maybe we should just do that, Troy. Let's get ourselves whatever that's called, little whatever that creates us, and I'll just feed it a script, and it can make the whole. Man, imagine the studio we could have. We're here today on the top of the Himalayas.
Yeah. Boy, is it cold, but we're gonna make it.
Live from Iran, duck, Troy.
Yeah. I'll just catch this missile in my hands.
Riding a shark in the ocean with a rope.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, folks, if you see that, you'll know that we found this.
It happened.
It's true. It's totally true. It is absolutely true. Okay, Troy. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the Free Will Burning Podcast. We'll be back next week. We'll try to find some more lighthearted stuff. We got a little heavy lately, particularly last week. Ooh, we did a barn burner. We got kind of upset about things in the world, talking shit. But that's okay. Actually, no, we were also talking about whether it's worth it or not to. If I didn't, I don't even know if that video is live. I might have taken it down. We had a video where we discussed whether or not it was worth going through liver transplant, and I thought it came out sounding like we're saying no.
Yeah.
When we clearly say yes at the end, but along the way we do point out a lot of stuff that makes it sound really rough. You
don't need a liver.
Right. I was listening to it, and I was like, if I was listening to this, my first comment would be, I bet the family of the donor would love to hear you talk like this.
Oh, shit. Never thought about that. Yeah, take it down.
Yikes. For those that don't know, Troy and I both had a liver transplant. I got mine in 2019. Troy had his in 2023.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
323, 23. Same forward is backwards.
323?
323, 23. Yeah.
Oh, well, see, one of my anniversaries was 323, and it used to PO my ex on the way that I remembered it. All I had to do is remember how many times did Michael Jordan retire. He retired 3 times. He was number 23. And I mentioned that to a friend one day, and she did not think that was funny.
That's good information.
So you got a Michael Jordan liver, man. You probably get out there in the hoops. Get some fits.
No wonder I can play basketball now. I never could before.
Yeah, we're gonna see you in the next Olympics. Team America.
Yeah. And that's not AI. That's me.
Oh, that'll really be Troy then, yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time, man.
Adios.